Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Let's play some Republicans that we've heard sort of defending Donald Trump on this memo, but also expressing their view that they don't think that Donald Trump will try to fire the special prosecutor. Take a listen.
This memo has, frankly, nothing at all to do with the special counsel.
I never felt that the president was going to fire the special counsel.
I don't believe this is an attack on Bob Mueller.
What's amazing about that, Katon, is I have here the talking points that we managed to get hold of that were put out by the Republican Party, the Republican National Committee, for what they wanted people to say. It's remarkable how many people said some of the stuff that's in here, one of which that's bolded here is the memo is not intended to undermine the special counsel. So you have everybody that's on the talking points this morning, but do you believe that Republicans really actually believe what they're saying in terms of Donald Trump not going after Mueller, not going after Rosenstein, and that they would do anything about it if he did?
I think what Republicans know is if he goes after Rosenstein, that's a flesh wound. If he goes after Mueller, that is a deep, deep body blow that he probably couldn't get over. So we understand that. I hope it doesn't happen.
But do you think that Republicans would impeach Donald Trump if he fired Rod Rosenstein as a way of curtailing this investigation, basically obstructing justice?
No.
You don't think they'd impeach him? Is there any circumstance under which you can see the Paul Ryan House of Representatives impeaching Donald Trump?
Absolutely not.
I think you and I agree on that. Michelle Bernard will be back.
And Joy, can I just add, firing Rosenstein, I disagree. That's not a flesh wound. That's a body blow also. It is equally tragic if you were to go after Rosenstein or Mueller.
Yeah, because Rosenstein is Mueller's boss. You could put a flunky in there who could essentially kill this investigation. And we just heard from Katon Dawson, who knows what he's talking about when it comes to Republican politics, that there is no circumstance, listen to that audience, no circumstance under which Katon believes this House of Representatives would impeach Donald Trump.
It is Monday, February 5th of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Our daily special, well, it's River City Hash Mondays, folks. We've had a long weekend, a Super Bowl weekend, as a matter of fact. We may be a bit hungover, or some of us may have missed the Super Bowl altogether. Maybe you only showed up for the halftime. Justin Timberlake, are you the cartoon character for white people everywhere? Well, inquiring minds want to know. Yeah. Okay. Congratulations, Philadelphia Eagles. I hope every single one of you decides to boycott the White House meeting. It's been mentioned that is what they may do. And wouldn't that be nice? Yes, indeed. Well, we didn't get blown up by any nuclear North Korean devices or North Korean nuclear devices. It depends on whether you want to put subject and object, that kind of thing. It is Monday. It was a long weekend. Super Bowl weekend, by the way. Oh, boy. Well, Donald Trump won. Donald Trump is up and at it. I guess they took his phone away or something over the weekend. But now he's going after Adam Schiff. Yeah, little Adam Schiff. Is that all he's got? I mean, the recycling stuff already little. It's little Marco Rubio. How about Adam Bada Bada Bing Schiff? I mean, come on, something. Or maybe Adam Shiv you in the back. Look, I can be had for a reasonable price as long as I don't have to give up any kind of ethical decisiveness that I decided upon long ago, or a moral certitude that would prevent me from ever even considering working for you, Donald Trump. Okay, it's Monday, River City Hash Mondays. We just throw it in the pan, all of it, get some starch in there, usually potatoes, and crisp it up, serve it. You can put whatever you want on it. Some sriracha, you want to put just regular Heinz ketchup, or just catsup if you'd like. It is your choice. It's River City Hash Mondays. Well, I missed most of the commercials. Usually people pay such close attention to the commercials, and I missed the one where Dodge used Martin Luther King's words. And everybody knows Martin Luther King had talked about specifically car commercials as a critique of their impact on American culture. So that was disheartening, especially on Black History Month, because if you're going to patronize a whole segment of the world population that you brought here in chains to work for you to build the American dream, I don't know. Martin Luther King, trucks, good works. Okay. And maybe that's also the reason why I couldn't be in the ad business. Well, I was, sort of. I did write copy. Yeah, but I wouldn't have been responsible for that copy. I would have walked. Or they would have walked me right out the door and said, your kind really doesn't work here. And they'd be right. Okay, I've gone on long enough. There's so much news out there. I should just open up one of the news aggregates and see what's going on right now. Well, of course, Trump going after Adam Schiff. That was the big one today. Oh, that's right, Carter Page. That's all you need to say. Carter Page. What the hell? Kellyanne Conway. She's at it again. They're letting her back in front of the camera. They must be totally desperate, which means that Mueller has some criminal indictments coming down. And I don't think that they're stopping at, outside the Oval Office. I think they're coming right on in. So, okay. Oh, and Trey Gowdy. What? He wants to go back and be a judge. I don't know if that's a good idea, to be honest with you. He's now criticizing himself for being a terrible politician. Well, we told you. We told you at the time. They never listen until it's too late. It's always when it's too late. Okay, speaking of too late, I ought to mention to you what we will be attending to today. But before I do that, I should also mention that if you'd like to know what we attend to on each day's show, I have a diary that posts about 10 minutes before showtime. And you can get a heads up that way. And that is at Daily Kos, of course. And would be what? dailycos.com /blog/Justice Putnam. And that's the NAM one. Okay? Just so there's no confusion. And you can find that there. Also, our homepage is back up. We were having a problem migrating different things. Our emails client server still needs to get fixed, but we will fix that. So, but the homepage is back up and the player is working. If it doesn't seem to work for you, you may need to click on your browser area to let Flash work or whatever it is it says. So your computer may be overriding that. It will sometimes do. And the contribute donate buttons are at our homepage, and that is how we pay the bills. And thank you so much for doing that. Nothing decreases in the bill category. They always incrementally go up, and sometimes not so incremental. as you know. Okay. And I got to tell you also podcasts of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, as well as the Justice Department, Musique Sans Frontières, are on Spreaker, and that's where I generate them out of. And you can find them on TuneIn. Hey, I heard iHeart may be going out of business. Darn, I'm so heartbroken over iHeart. Ugh. And but I don't know if I'm on the iTunes registry yet. I have to find out, and which means that I need to ask one of the crew who actually knows how to do these things. Okay, enough of that. What is on tap for the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? At the top, of course, that was Katon Dawson on Joanne Reed's show yesterday, admitting that there are no circumstances in which the GOP House, this GOP House, or probably any GOP House, will ever impeach Trump because, I don't know, maybe they're tied by rubles, or maybe their tax cuts and their policies are so important to them that they would ride the tail of the Russian bear in hopes that maybe they can get what they want, and they can kick the bear out when they're done using them to scare people underneath the logs and out past the thickets. So, never. Which, I got to tell you, the midterms are very important. But I also will say that the GOP's been acting for a while like they figure they're going to get some Russian help for the midterms. Because no one really likes what they're saying. Even I keep hearing in some journals that Nunez's constituency don't know and don't care about what's going on in Washington. But actually, when you go into Fresno and that part of California where his constituents are, oh boy, you ought to see the billboards all over there. And they aren't shy about calling him a Russian traitor. And, the Red Scare worked pretty darn good in Kern County. And it still works today. So, and I'm not saying that, it's an illegitimate Red Scare. It's not a Red Scare at all. It's just pointing out the facts. So, Nunez may be, maybe. I think that the writing's on the wall. So, but they act like they're going to get some sort of outside help again. Yep. Okay. Then on the rest of the menu at the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, billionaire Tom Golisano is refusing, yes, the New York Tom Golisano, is refusing to pay his $90,000 school tax bill until officials of South Bristol, New York, find a way to stop migrating Canadian geese from pooping on his lawn. Okay. Some people would say, $90,000? Yeah, the guy's a multi-billionaire. Give me a break. Oh, and he wants to blame the township for which a lot of people would probably construe as an act of nature, if not an act of God outright. I know I would. Tiny Osceola, it must be Osceola Township, Michigan, is in the water fight of its life with Nestle. Yeah. And the city of Austin, that'd be Texas, cuts business ties with border wall contractors. Yeah. Look, it was Hannah Arendt who termed who coined the term the banality of evil. Okay? Let us not unconsciously acquiesce to what is going around us. Good for you, City of Austin. And after the break, we'll move then to the chef's table, where we've already determined that Trump's Jobs-for-Medicaid scheme is based on warped logic. That's why a jobs guarantee program might actually work instead. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. First offering here at the Bistro Cafe in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays is by Mary Ash of the Associated Press by way of SF Gate, which is the San Francisco Chronicle's online platform. Well, billionaire Tom Golisano says he tried stringing up fish line, spraying smelly repellent, and even posting a wolf decoy, but nothing could rid his lakeside vacation home of the Canada geese that turned his lawn into a minefield of poop. Well, I live in Oregon, and yeah, we got a few geese flying through. We do. Well, his next line of attack is refusing to pay his $90,000 school tax bill until officials in the Finger Lakes town of South Bristol find a way to control the birds. This past summer, it was horrible. We drive in and find 100 to 200 geese parked on our lawn, said Golisano, a founder of payroll company Paychecks and former owner of the Buffalo Sabres hockey team. You can't walk barefoot, can't play frisbee, you can't have your grandchildren around. Here I am, paying all this money in taxes, and I cannot use my property because of the geese droppings. Well, Golisano's stand over bird poop is just one part of his one-man protest campaign against a taxation system he believes is flawed and inequitable. Shall I repeat that? This guy, who is a multi-billionaire, has determined in his one-man crusade the whole of the taxation system is flawed and inequitable. It is, except not the way he thinks. In this reporter's opinion, of course. Well, he's pledging to file a class action lawsuit on behalf of other upstate homeowners who believe they are being overtaxed. And he recently launched a website, taxmypropertyfairly.com, to give ordinary taxpayers the tools to challenge their property tax bills. Ordinary property owners? Okay. I think his idea of ordinary may be skewed a bit, regardless of whether he owned a hockey team or not. Golisano contends the tax assessors often lack the training, time, and expertise to accurately assign property values that determine what share of the local tax collection each homeowner pays. Hey, what's your name again, Golisano? Tom? Hey, Tom Golisano. Assessing property values, there's no obscure science behind it. 2 plus 2 equals 4. You compare this house, you compare that house, you look at historical trends, and there's no mystery behind it, okay? Come on. But he wants people to think there is. A lot of people are suffering significant injustice because of this assessment system, said the 76-year-old Golisano, founding member of the New York Independence Party and 3-time candidate for governor. 3-time? What a loser. Escaping high taxes was part of the reason Golisano changed his permanent home address to Naples, Florida, because, who cares if it was going to be washed out to sea? At least the taxes are low. He did that nearly a decade ago. In 2010, he spent $200,000 in legal fees to get the property taxes on his home in Mendon near Rochester reduced from $200,000 to $60,000. Well, I guess that was a return on investment, wasn't it? Golisano's fight over the bird poop in the town of South Bristol, population of 1,600, is based on the argument that the value of his Canada lake property is driven down by the flocks of wild geese that congregate there, and it's government's duty to solve the problem. Now he wants government to solve the problem. Don't they all? Yep. Privatize the gains, socialize the liabilities. Every time. It's like a broken record. Town Supervisor Daniel Marshall disagrees. It's a residents' problem to take care of, not the town's, he said. Marshall said no other shoreline residents had complained about the geese. It's a lake, after all. Well, if I was Golisano and I was, like crazy like him. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say, because that is actually impugning legitimate crazy people. If I was a bully like this Golisano guy, well, one way to mitigate the geese problem is take away the thing that they're coming for, and that's the lake. Drain the lake. Make a golf course. Yeah, they'll show up the golf course too. They always do. Okay, for now the tax fight remains unresolved. Golisano says his next step is to seek a reduced property assessment based on the goose scourge. Now, Golisano's net worth is listed by Forbes at $3.4 billion and is renowned for his generosity to healthcare, higher education, and opportunities for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. There are 3 children's hospitals named for him in Rochester, Syracuse, and Fort Myers, Florida. Okay. But he just doesn't want his pocket picked by local tax assessors. And just to show how much of a penny pincher he is, in November he sued the remodeler of his yacht for overcharging him on furnishings. And a jury did award him $50,000, which he said he'll add to the $2.5 million he recently donated for the Golisano Autism Center being built in Rochester. It's the principle, he said. Yes, that's the motto of bullies everywhere, especially those that have money. And see, it's okay. He's a philanthropist. He's donated to children's hospitals so he can put his boot right on your neck. It's okay. Next offering here is out of the Agence France Presse by Stephen M. Herpich. Global food conglomerate Nestle is in a battle with critics in tiny Osceola Township, Michigan, where residents complain the Swiss company's water extraction techniques are ruining the environment. Marianne Borden, a retired teacher who has lived in the western Michigan town since 1953, has photos documenting changes in the Twin Creek River since Nestle began pumping water in the region in the early 2000s for its Ice Mountain brand of bottled water. It is not the same creek, Borden, age 73, told AFP. It's narrower and deeper and therefore warmer compared with the biting cold water of her youth. The trout cannot survive in it because the water is warmer, she added. That's true. Though my understanding of how channels and rivers work, the deeper it is, maybe because it's so narrow, is an issue. The photos that she's shown doesn't seem like it's very deep. So who knows? Crazy. Maybe it's not feeding off of really cold glacial water anymore either. Wouldn't that be something? Nestle says it's not our extraction techniques, it's global warming. It's climate change. Not us. Don't blame us. Then they'll say, oh, climate change. Nah, but everybody knows what's going on. They know that we're going to be short on, essential things like water. And maybe they'll pass laws like Colorado used to have on the books, that it was illegal to even collect rainwater because you'd be taking money away from the local water monopoly who wants to get every last penny wrenched out of your pocket. Talk about taxes. Taxes. Taxes is just practice, apparently. The real game is when they actually take the money out of your pocket and put it in theirs and walk away. At least with government, you get some sort of idea of a return. Well, what Nestle has been doing, one thing that is not made clear in this particular article, which would have been nice, is what extraction method are they using? I've drilled water wells, and I've drilled gas wells, and I've drilled oil wells. Yeah. You could almost say I was in the drilling business for a while. Well, not cog in the machine, so to speak. But regardless, I'd be curious to know what technique they're using because from what I understand, the ground table there in that part of America shouldn't be diminishing as much as it sounds like it is. And are they doing slant drilling techniques, which can sometimes, they might be drilling one place and then the problems occur elsewhere because of that. Oh, this is another thing, is that Nestle pays only $200 a year to the state of Michigan to pump more than 130 million gallons of water. Yeah, $200 a year to the state, and then the people that they meet face to face, I think it's a little bit more than that. Maybe they get to go to Davos once a year to hobnob with the other, corrupt officials around the world. You never know. Okay, so, that's a sad predicament to be in. This is not the only specific problem of Nestle going after a particular area's water. It's happening everywhere, and it's not just Nestle. And like I said, water is a commodity, and pretty soon we won't be able to even collect it out of the air. Last dish here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, is by Carlos Ballesteros out of Newsweek. Now, the city of Austin, Texas, has divested themselves from all businesses who are contracted to build this fraud of a border wall. And it is wedded completely around not only the sanctuary city debate, but the whole immigration debate in its en toto. And city residents deserve to know how the city's public funds are being spent, and whether those funds are supporting individuals or entities involved in the construction or operation of the border wall. The resolution stated the city council has a responsibility to expend taxpayer dollars in ways that are consistent with the long-standing values of this community. And Homeland Security Deputy Secretary Elaine Duke denounced the resolution a day prior to the vote, arguing that the country shouldn't be tolerating cities that blackball companies for vying to build a border wall. It's the banality of evil, Elaine. Okay? Maybe a little bit of consciousness in your job may give you the critical thinking skills to maybe question what kind of moral turpitude you've succumbed to. just to do your job. Well, good on Austin. The link to the full article can be had by way of the show notes and links on my Daily Clothes diary. So check that out. And we better get to our break, and we'll come back and go through the weather and then finish up at the chef's table. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, if Epicurus had considered film. The coming-of-age convention is a common one for a director who wants to tell an existential story, but Luca Guadagnino's screen adaptation of the 2007 novel, Call Me By Your Name, takes the device to a new level. The story picks up with an American, Elio, son of an antiquities professor, beginning his 17th summer in a villa in the northern Italian countryside of 1983. He spends his time reading, playing the piano, and socializing with similarly aged locals. It's gonna be great. But right about then, Elio's dad announces that a graduate assistant, Oliver, would be joining them for the summer, displeasing Elio, who must now vacate his bedroom for the visitor. Oliver, played by Armie Hammer, is 25, visually stunning, and as smart as he is attractive. Though Elio is dating a local girl and Oliver is cautious for professional reasons and has an interest in women as well, the two begin an intense physical relationship, one we all know has an expiration date. Timothy Chalamet stunningly shepherds the Elio character through the adolescent angst of the summer, not ending actually until the winter holidays. At that point, we get an extended shot of his face with the sound of a crackling fire, which marks the turning of a chapter of life, not merely the end of a movie. Another performance of note is that of Michael Stolbarg as Elio's accepting dad, whose confessional monologue near the finale is worth the price of admission. Everything works together here, and it's all beautiful, literally. Beautiful scenery, beautiful food and wine, beautiful bodies, both of the living and the long dead, as in the recovered statues that hold the professors in Oliver's academic interest. Those with such an interest in film are already in awe of Call Me By Your Name, and you will be too. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
Donald Trump bragged in 2016 that, quote, "I know words. I have the best words." Well, occasionally he does use some very fine words that convey great promise, as in this sentence. I'm going to fight for every person in this country who believes government should serve the people, not the donors and special interests. Trump also declared he would, quote, "drain the swamp" to rid Washington of those creepy, crawly special interest lobbyists. Excellent words. But they only matter if the speaker actually means them, backing their rhetorical promise with action. As we've seen, though, far from draining the swamp, Trump converted the White House itself into a fetid cesspool of lobbyists, corporate executives, and banksters. His transition team was almost exclusively made up of those swamp critters. His glitzy inaugural celebration was bankrolled by big oil, big coal, big pharma, and other bigs that attached their legislative and regulatory demands to the checks they donated. Most of his top officials come straight out of Wall Street and corporate suites, turning Trump's government into a sump pump that is routinely funneling billions of dollars and special regulatory favors to the moneyed elite. When asked why he put Wall Street hucksters in charge of economic policy, he offered this scramble of words that inadvertently revealed his true plutocratic soul. I love all people, rich or poor, but in these positions, I just don't want a poor person. This is Jim Hightower saying, really? Not even one official who understands poverty from first-hand experience and could not only give you advice, but also some understanding? And what about those hard-hit middle-class workers Trump always talks about? Nope. He hasn't appointed a single one to a top policy position. So forget Trump's words. If the poor and middle class aren't in his government, they're not in his heart either, nor in his policies.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. Freedom of expression is protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution. One benefit of freedom of expression is that it helps to maintain representative democracy. For example, individual citizens participate in running our country by electing their representatives to Congress and other government officials. Citizens can also participate in making decisions about government policies. To make wise choices, you need to have good information. Free expression does not guarantee complete or accurate information, but it increases the chances of getting such information. Another benefit of freedom of expression is that it helps to bring about peaceful social change. Freedom of expression allows you to try to influence public opinion by persuasion without feeling you have to resort to violence to make changes. Also, if you have the opportunity to express your opinions freely, you might be more willing to accept government decisions, even decisions you do not agree with. That's all for today's podcast, 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
Do you know how many women are locked up in America today and why they are behind bars?
I'm Lily Ledbetter, and this is a Civil Liberties Minute with ACLU attorney Bill Newman.
The answer, 219,000 women today are behind the razor wire, according to a recent joint report authored by the ACLU's Campaign for Smart Justice and the nonpartisan nonprofit criminal justice reform group, the Prison Policy Initiative. Let me share some more deeply disturbing facts. Of the 96,000 women locked up in local jails, 60% of the women have not been convicted of any crime, but rather are sitting in cells because they cannot afford the bail. Not surprisingly, pretrial women who are locked up have an annual median income of just over $11,000. For black women, the figure is about $9,000 per year. Do note that of the women who are locked up and unable to make bail, often for drug or property crimes, about 80% are mothers, and most of them are the primary caretaker. The take-home is pretty straightforward. The time has come for nationwide criminal justice and bail reform. Wouldn't you agree?
The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, this is your World in 2 Minutes. I'm your host, Luke Vargas, for Talk Media News. France won't sign a free trade deal with the United States unless President Trump commits to the Paris Agreement on climate change. Addressing the French Parliament, Secretary of State Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne said that, quote, the U.S. knows what to expect. And France is not alone in standing up to Trump's climate policies. The European Union's trade commissioner wrote on Twitter Thursday that reference to the Paris Agreement is now needed in all new European Union trade deals. A UN court has for the first time demanded that one country pay its neighbor for environmental damage, and it's putting a price tag on that damage. On Friday, the International Court of Justice ordered Nicaragua cough up nearly $400,000 to Costa Rica to cover damage to a wetland caused by river dredging in 2010. The court's decision to financially value environmental damage could prove a historic precedent as the court takes on future cases involving climate change. And the United States is imposing an arms embargo on South Sudan, the world's newest nation that just years ago the U.S. aided during its independence push. The State Department said Friday the U.S. is, quote, appalled by the continuing violence in South Sudan that has created one of Africa's worst humanitarian crises. According to the United Nations, 5 years of civil war in South Sudan has left half of the country's population, or roughly 5 million people, in severe need of food assistance, while some 2.5 million have fled the country altogether. Under the new U.S. sanctions, defense articles and defense services can no longer be exported to South Sudan. The U.S. is also now asking the UN Security Council to go further by imposing an international arms embargo on South Sudan. For more global news headlines, visit talkmedianews.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays. Yes, we've got it. It's been a busy weekend, and usually places are closed on Mondays, right? At least where I come from. Well, not where I currently reside, but, when I lived in a more refined, sophisticated, and how shall I put it, cultured society that we affectionately called the San Francisco Bay Area. A lot of restaurants and cafes and bistros were closed on Mondays. So, we're in luck. I'm open. All right, let's start off with our palate cleanser, which is weather from around the world, and we always begin along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America. It is currently 44 degrees. I went outside. It does feel like 44, but you know what? It is way, 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 way foggy. Let's see. High of 62 today, a low of 38 tonight. Will be around the same temperature tomorrow, but then we're going to ostensibly, always subject to change, Wednesday and Thursday we're supposed to shoot up to high 60s, low 70s. Yeah, we'll see. Nights will still remain chilly, around 38, 39, but by this time it'll be in the mid 40s. Okay, air quality is good at 45 parts per million, just barely made it. It looks like low pressure is still fighting high pressure, but we're at 30.18 inches. Visibility is down to 6 miles, and humidity is 88%, which is indicative of the fog that's outside that I see right now. Or maybe it's just low-hanging clouds. Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. They had them delivered, like in some, maybe by drone even, but we're at that point. And these people live around the world. London is 40 degrees and partly cloudy. Paris is 34 and cloudy. They are also under a snow and ice warning. Rome is 55 and fair, though they are under a wind and flood watch. Kiev is 21 and partly cloudy. Kabul is 34 with smoke. They always have smoke on Mondays. Hey, come on. You're hurting yourself. I know wood is, or maybe it's not wood. Maybe it's, I don't know, some sort of pack animal's dung. Probably, but it's not good for your lungs. Trust me. Hong Kong is 45 and clear. Tokyo is 36 and clear. Sydney is 68 and partly cloudy. San Francisco is 54 and sunny. And New York is 31 degrees and sunny with a nice morning. So that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. And these people live around the world. Comfortably ensconced at the chef's table, we'll dive into this article here. Now, Marshall Auerbach at Alternet states something that we all already know, and that is that, this Jobs-for-Medicare scheme that Trump is floating is obviously based on flawed logic. Or, if not flawed, warped, because it lacks, certainly lacks a moral background. Well, a morality that we all consider to be part of building a community rather than tearing it apart. But that's just me. I'm a romantic. But that's why a job guarantee program is something maybe similar to the Works Progress Administration, the WPA, back during the New Deal. So let's look at this. The article is much more comprehensive than we have time for today, but we'll get the gist of it here, or at least a little bit more. And always remember, links are in my show notes and links diary that I post every day for the show. Earlier this year, the Trump administration said it would support state efforts to require able-bodied adults to work or participate in other community engagement activities as a future condition of eligibility for Medicaid, as if they're not already doing that currently. Remember when the elder Bush went to go shopping and he'd never seen a scanner before at the checkout, and he was like totally amazed? Because he had people that did that for him. He didn't have to go sully his hands mixing with the common folk. And somehow this guy, the guy who lives in a gilded palace, and it's fake too. It's totally fake. You go into his place. I've been into these houses of the nouveau riche. He's not old money, trust me. It's nouveau riche. And their libraries, you go, wow, I'm somewhat amazed. This guy actually has a quite extensive library here. And you go to pull a book out, and it's fake. It's paneling. I've seen it. It's quite amazing. Okay. Well, so obviously Trump's idea of making people work for their Medicaid is right up his alley, because he believes that people who obviously are in the condition they are losers because they're not in the condition he's in, and he's winning. Well, if there are pearly gates, you know what's going to happen. He can't buy his way in there. Boy, I don't know. Well, the professed goal behind this measure is to save the states some money, especially as the Affordable Care Act gave them the option of expanding Medicaid to cover more poor Americans under the health insurance mandate. Okay. There is an ideological component to the proposal, given that many still see programs like Medicaid as a lucrative benefit that discourages poor people from looking for jobs, and poor people should be kicked because they are where they are. Now, I might paraphrase Malcolm X and say that I have no respect for a society that will crush a people and then condemn and criticize them for not being able to bear up under the weight. Okay. Well, why not tackle a problem more directly via a job guarantee program with a living wage, a benefits package, including contributions to Social Security, receipt of Medicaid and other health care benefits? A job guarantee program would not constitute a radical departure from the federal government, as it can be modeled along the lines of the old New Deal programs, such as the Works Progress Administration, the Work Projects Administration, and the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. It would offer a job to any American who was ready and willing to work at the federal minimum wage, plus legislated benefits. No time limits, no means testing, No minimum education or skill requirements, at the very least. With a job guarantee, we'll at least get a sense of how big the scale of involuntary unemployment truly is, which will form a more rational basis for determining how much, if any, abuse of government benefits actually exists. And I can hear the gnashing of teeth right now. No. You go too far. No, we didn't mean that. I mean, we need people to kick. Actually, to grease the engine of capitalism, we need losers. Otherwise, how else would we have, like, the big winners? And you know what they say? Everybody loves a winner. One distinguishing feature from the New Deal, the job guarantee, would remain a permanent feature of the economy. The program would operate like a buffer stock, absorbing and releasing workers during the economy's natural boom and bust cycles. The kernel of this idea comes from Australia, where the federal government provided guarantees to the Australian Wool Corporation that the price of wool would remain within a price band by using the AWC to purchase stocks of wool in the auction markets if demand was low and selling it if demand was high. As economist Bill Mitchell noted, by being prepared to hold buffer wool stocks in low demand and release it again in times of high demand, the government was able to accentuate the boom-bust nature of the wool cycle and thereby guarantee incomes for the farmers. But wait a second. We don't like that. We only want the certainty of a monopoly. Okay? Come on. You're spreading this out among the workers? That's like giving civil rights to a machine. They're just worker bees. Stop it. If we have to start thinking about their humanity, you know how hard it would be for us to continue doing what we're doing? My God, man. Buckle up. The job guarantee would also take those whose education, training, or job experience was initially inadequate to obtain work outside the program, enhancing their employability through on-the-job training. Well, in other words, you mean you're going to train them so that they're going to demand higher wages? Well, we're just going to offshore and go somewhere where we can get people to work for a pittance, and they have, I don't know, almost as good of an education and almost as always good enough in business, especially if it saves you money. Okay? Almost good enough. It can't be good enough. Otherwise, it's too good. And everybody knows that. Can't give that to the common folk. You know what they would do with that? Yeah, they'd go out and then get educations and learn how to vote. We got a good game going here. Stop messing it up. Even if funded directly via the federal government, the administration and operation of the program can and should be decentralized to the state and local level. There is no need to create a new overweening federal bureaucracy. Registered not-for-profit organizations could propose projects for approval by reasonable offices designated within each of the states and U.S. territories, as well as the District of Columbia. Then the proposals should be submitted to the federal office for final approval and funding to ensure transparency and accountability. The Labor Department should maintain a website providing details on all projects submitted, all projects approved, and all projects started. Well, wait a second. You're talking about a bid process. We are not ready to give up the no-bid process so that people in Whitefish, Montana, Whitewater, ooh, I wonder, Whitefish, Montana, can get these multi-billion-dollar contracts, and you know, I mean, there's a couple of guys there that really need to make ends meet, and they can't do it without, you know, these multi-billion-dollar contracts. It's worked a couple of times. Look what they did to Puerto Rico. There is no question that the private sector plays an invaluable and dynamic role in providing employment, but it cannot always ensure enough jobs to keep up with population growth or speed economic recovery, much less achieve the social goal of full employment for all Americans. That's not the result of the economic system that we have. We want to use the idea of full employment as a cudgel against those people that we deem, the whipping boys, to keep the rest of the people in line so we can continue, stealing out of their back pocket. Like I said, we got a good game going here. Don't mess it up. The program would allow for the elimination of many existing government welfare payments for anyone not specifically targeted for exemption. It would also command broad political legitimacy as Americans place a high value on work as the means through which individuals earn a livelihood. Yeah, that's romantic. Labor would welcome the safety net of a guaranteed job, and business would recognize the benefit of a pool of available labor it could draw from it some spread to the government wage paid to the employees. Employment security would be enhanced, and it would likely create greater bipartisan support for social welfare programs by minimizing crude perceptions of the undeserving poor scrounging for the proverbial free lunch. The only scourge of the proverbial free lunch I've ever experienced are those that are the ones who are the loudest complainers about poor people being the scourge, scrounging for that free lunch. Let's be clear. Okay, well, we're not going to get that program unless we can start changing things in the midterms. And no matter how much it can be gamed, our voting process, they can't game it when we come out in sheer numbers. They can't, and we need to do that. So we will meet up tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Stay tuned for the rest of the day. There's some great content, and Tom Hartman, Randy Rhodes, Mike Malloy will all catch you up on what's been going on the weekend as well as what's happened today. Oh my God, it never stops, does it? All right. So we will visit with you tomorrow on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Ba-da-da-dum-dee-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.